So my name's Craig, I'm a peer support worker in Great Yarmouth. So what I do as my job is I use my lived experience to help people and do the early intervention service. So my journey started probably about 8 years ago. I started hearing voices, that's how it started. Started seeing things, tried to get help through the wellbeing service, had some sessions with them. That was useful, but it didn't sort out my problems, so I then went back to my doctor. Eventually managed to get under the early intervention team and was under them for about 3.5 years. And then in January of this year, my old counsellor messaged me, going there's a job going. Middle of October I started my job as a peer support worker. So when I was under the service, I did CBT a lot. When I started doing CBT, my therapist introduced me to one of the support workers here. And yeah, being able to speak to someone who was in the same situation as me was really helpful, because they understand what I'm going through from a different perspective compared to, say, a counsellor or a support worker who've not been through it. And then I started doing the walking group, and then from doing the walking group I then started doing the drop-in group, and then the cinema group, and sort of all these things built up. From doing those I then started volunteering, which also helped me to get to where I am now. But until I started volunteering I hadn't worked for like about 5 years, so it was really scary to go just into the volunteer role, and then to go into a paid job was even scarier. But now I've become a peer support worker and I get to help people who are in the same situation as what I was, and it's a fantastic feeling. When I originally came under the service, they were in a different building from what they're in now. I was bricking it in the nicest way possible, and I really didn't want to go. I had a friend come with me at the time because I just wouldn't have turned up otherwise. I didn't really know what to expect, I have to say, but once I'd come under the service, it took probably about 6 months to a year to realise that yes, I have to live with this, but actually it doesn't control my life. Like the people I worked with probably about 8 or 9 different people over my time in the service. I met my care co to start with, and then I met my counsellor while I was with my care coordinator, and then everyone else that I met came to one of my sessions, so I knew beforehand that the next session that I would go to, someone would come to the session, so I knew that was going to happen, so it wasn't as scary. To start with, I really didn't want to take medication, but it got to a point where I think if I hadn't taken the medication, things would have got a lot worse than what they did. So the medication helped me hugely, because they really quietened, for me personally, my voices down. And while I was under the service, my doctor that I had here slowly took me off them, and I'm now not on them, which is a good thing. So I'm not on the antipsychotics, but I'm still on the antidepressants. My driving aim of being a peer support worker is to be able to make a difference in someone's life so that they can leave their house. Like, I wouldn't leave my house when I first came under the service, but eventually I could leave the house on my own, which made a huge difference to me, because like I could go to the shops myself, I didn't have to buy everything online, I could go out and meet friends. To start with, I couldn't go to the pub on my own, I would have to have friends go with me. Now I can go and just chat with people in the pub. 4 or 5 years ago, it just wouldn't have happened. It is terrifying to start with, and it is a scary journey, and it's a lot of hard work. But when you get to the end, and when you finish, you will feel so proud of yourself. Like I said, I've not worked for 6 or 7 years now. I'm now a peer support worker within the trust and with the people who help me, and that's an amazing feeling.